All right. Welcome, Katie White, to the podcast. So good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So today, what I wanted to talk to Katie about as one of the expert bookkeepers that we work with is about, it's after year end. And a lot of business owners listening to this are going, I know, Shannon, I know, I should have done the bookkeeping. You've been telling me for a long time that I got to get on this, but I didn't do it. And number one, no judgment, no shame. It's all good. I didn't go on keto and lose weight this year. I didn't do my New Year's resolution. So there's no, there's no shame
Exactly.
in, no shame, no guilt. But what I wanted to bring Katie on here to talk about was, okay, now what? What can you do? What actions can you take now? And I want to hear more from her about, her tricks for effective bookkeeping so that you can do this the right way this year and stay on top of it. So, Katie, broadly, what advice would you give business owners who haven't done their books for 2021 and are a bit in panic mode right now, thinking they have a lot of homework to do?
So, a couple things. So, the first thing is just be really honest with yourself. If it was, so we're going 2022, I haven't done anything in 2021. So, think back to January 2021. Were you saying this about 2020 and be like, I'm never going to do this again? I never ever want to be in this situation again. And now here you are in that situation again. So, be honest with yourself and think about maybe I do need to just hire this out. Bookkeeping is not for everyone. And a lot of business owners, they didn't go to school to know how to do the business end of stuff. Business owners are excelling at and they're selling what they're good at. And bookkeeping may not be it. And again, no judgment and there's no shame in that. I'm always the first to say that social media is not my jam. And I held off on, I was like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll start doing social media. And I never did it. And I never did it. So I finally was like, I just have to hire somebody to do it. And in this day and age, you have to have social media, right? It's how you get your name out there. So, sometimes you have to bite the bullet. So one, just be honest with yourself and just do a little soul search and be like, you know what, I just don't want to do it. And that's perfectly fine. Again, no judgment, no shame, just pass it off. Even find somebody to do it like as a project and just get it caught up and then make that commitment to try to stay on top of it for the upcoming year. But say you want to DIY it, where do you start? You got to start at the beginning. So first things first, if you're not using accounting software, just use one. It's totally worth the extra cost because it is going to save you so much time. You do have to still look at every single transaction, but the fact that you don't have to type everything in is a huge time saver. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that and they're like, okay, I'll just use my bank statements and I can categorize it. Talk about a time suck. So use the software, right? Like use the tools to make it easier. So make it easy on yourself because if you're having it look so daunting, then you're never going to get it done. So get the right tools in place. Mm-hmm. First of all, start with the simple stuff. Get your bank statements and just start with that. If you're using an online tool, they'll be able to pull that information in. So it's going to make it a little easier. Schedule the time to do the work, which is another thing. Don't just say, oh, I'll get to it this weekend. Like actually put it in your calendar, give yourself some sort of reminder, tell somebody else that they have to call you and make sure you sit down and do it because you have to get it done at some point. And because next thing you know, it's going to be April 1st and you haven't done it yet. And then you're just file an extension. And then you're going to be coming up on September 30th and realizing that your stuff's due in 15 days and you haven't done it yet. Just make that commitment to sit down and do the work. So I think that's the first step is doing that little soul searching and committing to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you included an element of accountability in that because I think that what we do is we always have that, like, I'll start my workouts on Monday and I'll get to that next week. And it's something you don't look forward to doing. And we totally understand that. And I mean, admittedly, it's not like the most fun thing to do even for us. So it's, I'll get to that on Monday and that will continue going until you absolutely can't push it off anymore. It's like Parkinson's law. Things will fill the space you give them, right? So if you give yourself a whole year to get this done, it will take you a whole year to do it. So you really have to just find that container, put it in the calendar, and have someone hold you accountable. And frankly, if you're a client of mine, then call me. Tell me when you're going to get it done. I will make sure I hold you accountable to doing that.
Yeah.
It's so important just to carve out the time and to be committed to getting it done. And I think it, most of my clients, and tell me if this is your experience too, Katie, is they put it off and put it off, and that becomes this big daunting task. But then after they do it, they're like, that wasn't that bad, you know?
Absolutely. And it's like, it's, going back to like that keto or going to the gym, like once you just do it, you're like, oh, like, why didn't I just do this sooner? Like, why did I keep putting it off? I used to run all the time and I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to run. I don't want to run. I'd put it off for hours. And then like 2 o'clock in the afternoon going for a run and then the sun's beating down and it's like, oh my God, like, and then it's done. You're like, why didn't I just do it earlier? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, why do I do this to myself?
Yeah.
So we all do it. And just so you know, I do block time in my calendar to do my own bookkeeping because otherwise you won't do it. You have so much other stuff going on, other parts of the business that I'm focusing on that you kind of forget to focus on the business itself.
Yeah,
So
I do the
super
same thing.
important.
I have to do my own bookkeeping and carve out time for that too. And it's really important. And you mentioned, it's such a time suck to take those bank statements and highlight them. I know a lot of people listening are probably in the process of, I got to run my bank statements. I got to highlight the business stuff because I don't have everything separated. Right. So number one is get that stuff separated, like no question.
Correct.
But the struggle is, well, what do I do in that situation? Isn't it easier for me to just pull my bank statements, and wouldn't the bank statements be enough? Like, do I really have to keep receipts, and do I have to, do I need more information than just what's in the bank statements? Can I just hand these to my tax preparer? What would you say to that?
So it's a good first step. And sometimes that, I mean, Shannon, as you know, that's all we have to work with sometimes, like
Yeah.
especially if you're doing catching up and you're doing a ton of back work.
Hmm.
But there's other tools that are really helpful. So if you are using any site type of third party app for capturing payments, so a Square, Stripe, Shopify, anything like that, those statements are so important too. It helps verify. It helps make sure that you're getting the money that you were supposed to be getting, and make sure that you're not claiming any extra income um, on your taxes that maybe didn't earn. And especially this year with stimulus stuff coming in and the child tax credit, I have 4 clients because they paid their business taxes. They paid their taxes out of their business account, which is totally fine because it's their business, and their child tax credit now is coming in monthly into their business account. And you don't want to just look at, like, go through your bank statements, be like, well, it's my business account, and go through and just highlight, like, yep, this is all the income, because you don't have to pay taxes on your stimulus, right? Like
Right.
that's a credit. So you don't want to accidentally include that stuff as income. So
Yeah.
so going just off of the statements alone isn't ideal, and kind of just doing a blanket. So if it's the only tool you have, it's what we have. And so sometimes, unfortunately, that's what we have to work with. But there is other tools out there, and that you want to make sure that you're running reports, you're keeping track of. Even better if you're doing it on throughout the year, but I understand that that doesn't always happen, and we're talking about catch up, to make sure that you have another. It's kind of like a checks and balance, right? And then what I had written down, also receipts. Ideally, yes, save your receipts. I don't care how much it is, save your receipts. I have witnessed IRS auditors coming into a place of business and literally flipping through every single receipt. They want to see it. It depends on who your auditor is. So you don't want to get stuck if you get audited with that auditor who wants to see every single receipt. I've seen other auditors be like, yeah, no big deal. I don't need to see them. But it's better to be safe than sorry, and to have to try to explain something that happened 3 years ago. If you have it already saved and remembered and like written on down, like what you did, where you were, it's so much easier. And there's great tools out there, and the IRS does accept electronic receipts. Like, you can
Right.
capture them electronically, so you don't have to physically hold on to that paper anymore. There are so many apps and tools out there to make it so quick and easy. There's really like not a reason not to anymore. I mean, I even do it with my own business now. Like, just like, oh, I'm just going to snap this receipt really quick, and then literally I snap it and I throw it in the trash, and it's done. I have it. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So there's tools out there, like I said. So if there's a tool available, use it. So yes, go beyond the bank statement,
Yeah.
please.
So QuickBooks has the receipt capture. I've heard of Receipt Bank and a few others that are great. And I always preach something's better than nothing. Find what works for you, even if it's a Dropbox folder, even if it's a photo library in your phone, something, as long as it's backed up too, by the way.
Yes,
Um, but you want to make sure that you find something that works for you and is effective and you'll be able to do. Because my point is always do what you can be consistent doing. You don't have to save paper receipts because your mom told you to, or your accountant told you to. How would you effectively make sure you're going to keep the habit? So if it's snapping the picture, if it's just, doing things here and there, updating your books on this day of the week because there's a trigger memory, to go do it then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You have to do what works within your habits and build the right habits. So I love that, and I love there's different ways to do this.
exactly.
It doesn't have to be the old fashioned way. So we always, as accountants, you guys hear probably what seems like lecturing about bookkeeping all the time from me and other accountants of, hey, make sure you update your books, make sure you update your books. And I think there's a misconception that we're basically telling you to go eat your vegetables, but for the sake of eating your vegetables. But I think that there's so much left to be understood around the advantages of bookkeeping, meaning the value that you could be sacrificing by not doing them. So, Katie,
Right.
could you elaborate on what are people potentially missing out on by not doing them other than, the risk of a slap on the wrist from Shannon at the end of the year?
Right.
Why should they be keeping their books during the year?
So, one of my favorite sayings that I tell anybody I speak to is bookkeeping is not just about having something to give to your account at the end of the year for taxes. Bookkeeping is about planning and being a good, responsible business owner. It's help you make business decisions. Um, so this is I actually had a call today with somebody, and the clearest example, I didn't have to give him the example because he gave it to me because he got it. He offered different kind. He's a construction company, was trying different things, and he quickly could tell because he kept up with his books that putting up fencing at residential homes was not a moneymaker for him. So instead of dumping everything like just into a generic sales category, really breaking down his income, helped him see quickly. So he wasn't doing an activity for a full year to realize this is not a moneymaker for me. So that's just one example of how having better books is going to help you be a better business owner, be the CEO of your own business, and be able to make better decisions for the future of your business and how to grow and be successful and to bring you to that next level.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually have a client who, until they actually kept their books and started analyzing the data, didn't realize they could quit their full-time job. Like
Exactly.
they realized, oh my God, I could have quit a year sooner if I had just started keeping track of this stuff. Or I've been selling this type of service and promoting, let's say it's an online coach, right? I'm promoting my one on one coaching, but God, the group coaching has such a higher margin. And I'm actually making way more money on that I should be throwing ad spend to that as opposed to this. Like it enables you as a business owner to make decisions based on data and to feel more confident in those decisions because you know that the facts are backing you up. Would you agree?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I think it just happens so often that I see my friendly critters walking by. It's all too often that you have somebody who's coming on board and they maybe just want to, I'm just doing my taxes at the end of the year, and you see that a couple of years in a row. And I can never get ahead. I just feel like I'm working all the time. I just don't understand. Like, I feel like I'm making money, or why isn't there money in my bank account? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I know I'm like, why am I getting all this money coming in, but I have nothing to show for it. I still have all this debt. It's because you're not looking and you're not planning, and you can't, when you can see something like on paper, it
Mm-hmm.
just makes such a difference. And it kind of like that reality sinks in, and knowing what decisions that you need to make from there. Um,
Right.
so
Right. And the messaging I've used that seems to resonate with most folks is I think most people have been through some type of weight loss journey, workout plan, diet, what have
exactly,
you, right? And I look at it as, well, what if your goal was to lose weight, right? But you didn't have a food journal, right? What if you didn't know how many calories you were taking in or were going out? How would you be tracking your progress? How would you know if you've met your goal? Even let's say you weren't even weighing yourself. What would you be measuring your success on? How your clothes felt, maybe? and subjective qualitative things that are not really consistent indicators, right? So bookkeeping is a lot like keeping the food journal. It's the data
Absolutely.
that will help support making tweaks into your plan as a business owner. And think of us as your personal trainers in a sense, right? Or like your my fitness pal who will uh
Yeah.
who will help you track all that. And I think when you understand that that's the role it plays as opposed to just a to-do item or a task that you have to do because someone's telling you you have to do it, like it's telling like your dentist telling you you have to floss every night. It's like, that's nice.
Yeah.
Sure, sure. I don't think I've ever flossed my entire life as a habit. And yeah, I continuously show up at my dentist and act like I'm gonna disappoint them. And I'm sure that's how you guys feel with me when you tell me the books aren't done. But the key here is just understanding that we're not doing it just to be preachy. We're not doing it to tell you because we know it's for your own good, but we're telling you that it's the broccoli you have to eat, but it's because it's good for you. It will enable you to have more energy, to be
Right.
healthier, to live longer, and the bookkeeping is helping your business live longer.
Right.
So
It's going to help you reach your goals.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's think about, your clients, your top performing clients, your business owners that you work with. What would you say are some of the keys that have enabled them to be successful? And the role that you guys have played in that as sense and balance.
Yeah. So the the clients that tend to, be successful and continue to grow year after year or stay in business, that's a big one too, are the ones who are really, they are looking at their numbers. So they're not just hiring us to make sure the data is in there so they have something to hand in at the end of the year. They're hiring us and then saying, great, let's look at the reports, what's happening, and they're paying attention. They're making business decisions. Why is my income down? Oh, I have hardly spent anything in marketing. It's maybe I need to revamp my website. So it's just really kind of taking in, using those numbers and looking at the data and seeing what's worked historically and continuing to do it and doing better and improving on it, or cutting stuff out. I've had some business owners who have said right from that, because they're able to see that, what you actually kind of alluded to that earlier, like this, what I'm doing, like this one-on-one coaching is not working. This line of business, of construction work that I'm doing is not making me any money. But you know what? I found this other line of business that there's not a lot of people doing it, and it's a pretty good niche, and I'm going to hop in there because it needs to be done, and take advantage of that. So because that they have their numbers in place and that we are making sure that they're up to date and that they're accurate and working, hand in hand with these clients, accountants, tax preparers, they are able to plan. So not only are they planning for their business, they're planning on their personal lives, which I think a lot of people, a lot of our clients specifically, it all kind of reverse engineers back to what they need to break home at the end of the day, what they have to provide for their family. We aren't working with huge corporations. We're working with, the mom and pops, people just like me out there. That's how I have to, run my business. Of what do I need to take home every month to be able to make sure I'm paying our meat, right? Like, what do I need? Like, maybe potatoes. Like, what do I have to bring home? And then kind of working back from there. And our clients are able to see at the end of the day if they are making sure that they're looking at their reports, looking at their books, being like, awesome, I am on my way, or I've made it, or holy cow, like I need to figure something out. Something has to change. So they're able to be able to make those decisions and to grow. And so they can, at the end of the day, support their families, support their living, support themselves. And I think a lot of people kind of forget about that because you just kind of get in this rat race. So got to go, 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 and just forgetting about that piece of the end goal, which is
Yeah. Yeah. And I
and I
think,
kind of got a little tangent there. But
yeah, yeah, no, it makes total sense because it enables you to do goal setting and it
yes.
enables you to know how close you are to your goals. And
Mhm.
I think that's so important because one of the struggles I've actually seen with my clients and with folks that I talk to on Instagram and just in my network and listeners just like you, right? We always struggle with I'll ask the question, what's your income goal for this year? And they might say $100,000 or like your revenue goal, right? $100,000, $200,000. Why? And that's where they get tripped up.
Yeah.
And why is that your goal? Well, And for example, if you were to say, Shannon, what's your goal? If I said, well, my goal is $500,000 in revenue. Why? Because I want to take home $250,000 in profit and I have roughly a 50% margin on most of my services, or, across a net margin, right? And this is my operational cost. This is what it costs to deliver my service. And I figured this out, that going back, I need to make this much money in order to turn up this much profit. And that's an exercise that I think every business owner should do in their business plan if they're doing a business plan, or just as they're moving through their business and they have these goals every year. That's a big factor in the goals is, well, how much does it cost to run your business? And do you know those numbers? You don't have to know them off the top of your head, like, the alphabet, but you do have to know roughly what your expectations are and how you're going to get there, and then break that down into, well, how much of each widget I sell do I have to sell to get to that goal? And here's the other kicker: am I profitable in every service that I offer? Because I think there's a misconception that if I'm profitable as a business owner, I'm winning. But I mean, you've been able to help your clients see that. Do you have an example of any time that, someone thought they were profitable, but they realized that, you know, maybe I'm not profitable in all of the things I'm doing?
Yeah, I mean, I have, I have a client who they're in fitness and they thought that I could sell like a certain piece of equipment as like, but just the process, like, I mean, granted, like, yeah, she gets a little markup on it, but the time and the effort, which honestly, like, it wasn't even recorded. I mean, it's not recorded. Her own personal time isn't recorded in these reports. So, I mean, that's another piece that you need to think about.
Right.
At the end, she was looking, she's like, I made like $25, like, for all this time. Like, was it worth it? Is that her, like, value of time? $25? How much time did she put in? 6 hours on this one sale, and she got $25 out of it? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what, like, either make it easier, have somebody else do it, or just stop
Yeah.
doing it. And
Yeah.
so, it definitely, sometimes it just, until it, like, you actually sit down and look at it and it clicks. Takes to get there. I have a brand new client who just, she offers 4 different lines of service. She does like home staging and interior design. And when I got her books, and I had been working with her prior, as a DIY, and I'm always coaching. You got to break out your income streams. You have to look at them. So finally, she just hired me to do them for her. And I was like, you didn't break out your income streams. I was like, well, how's this in business doing for you? How's your home staging doing? And she's just like, I don't know. And I was like, well, I see that you have to rent furniture for it. Like, and you had to go up to a second month of rental. Like, did you make sure you made enough money off of this? So she's had to, like, change. It's not that she's getting rid of that line of business, but it's changing her policies. So, okay, if it goes into a second month, what does that look like? Yes, I have to, continue to charge the realtor in this case. And but things that she didn't think about originally, but then now seeing it in paper across the board and be like, here's my income line, and then here's the exact expense that goes with it. And be like, oh no, like, I need to make sure I put in this extra thing. So it's not that she had to get rid of it. She just had to make a different business decision and change some policies, which is perfectly fine, because that's what the books are there for, right? That's like an excellent example of why having books in place and doing it properly helps you make good business decisions. Because it could be a very profitable service line for her now that she is learning as she's growing. And okay, in a couple more months, let's go back and look. What else do we have to change? What else can we do to make this more profitable? So that that alone, like, just to be able to see that process was super helpful for her in order to kind of change. So it wasn't having to
Yeah.
eliminate it 100% in that case. So at different situations, by looking at it, you're going to get different results. And sometimes you might see, like, what, this isn't worth it. Like, it's not worth my time. I'm not passionate about it anyways. Or if it is something you're passionate about, okay, if you're passionate about it and it's not making money, like, what can you do to change it, like, to make
Yes.
money? So
Yes.
it's just really kind of different ways to look at things. But without
Yeah.
having good books, you don't even know where to start.
100%. And on that note, if something isn't worth your time, it's figuring out, well, what would I pay, or what was it worth to me to not have to take this time away and to do this? What's the opportunity cost? We call it in economics. Like, what am I sacrificing by spending my time on this versus that, right? And On that note, we're talking about the bookkeeping piece. And if we're after year end, and as Katie mentioned, the blunt advice of it is just hire it out and make sure someone gets it caught up professionally. I would definitely encourage that. If you do want to DIY, more power to you, and make sure you have the tools in line to do that. But if you do hire it out, you know, it is a matter of, is it worth your time? How long would this take you based on how many transactions you have or how many bank accounts, Stripe accounts, things like that? Would it be worth your time and energy and stress to do it yourself, even if you want to, versus handing it off and knowing it's going to get handled? I think that it would alleviate a lot of stress in most of the business owners who are listening to this to actually just hand it off and know that it can get handled that way. And it also, it serves everyone, because what I've found is, and if you're a DIYer, like I said, more power to you. But I think the people who try to DIY out of cost savings, as opposed to a pure desire to actually do it, if they think they're going to save a lot of money by doing it themselves, two things. One is, you may not, because you're probably going to end up paying more in taxes for missing something, in all honesty, if you don't
Mhm.
know the implications of what you're doing. Number two is that I think that a lot of business owners, when they go through this, it's painful and they associate that pain with the process, and they resent the whole bookkeeping process as a result, right? Like they might say, I'm never doing this again. And then of course we find ourselves in that repeat position. And for some reason they feel like hiring a bookkeeper is out of reach. And I think I want to dispel that today with you, Katie, you know, is it really that expensive to hire a bookkeeper to do catch up bookkeeping versus doing it yourself if you're looking at the cost balance? But also, what to look for in that bookkeeper, right? So if you're trying to hire someone, do you need to look for a certain type of tier of price of the individual, credentials, or industry? What would you recommend if someone's saying, awesome, I love it, I'm hiring someone tomorrow, Katie, who should I hire?
I will answer that, but I first want to go back to what you were just saying
Yeah.
about, the cost benefit.
Yeah.
I just want to share a super quick story. I was working with somebody a couple of years ago, a DIYer. Again, all the power to you if you're going to do it. She was like, I want to DIY because there's a cost. I don't want to pay for you to do it. I don't want, I just need you to help me kind of get through these steps. I got to figure out what to do. I'm really trying to get this loan from the bank because I have like all these great ideas for my business. But I have to have my books in order before I can get the loan. Totally makes sense. They want to see your P&L. Makes sense, right? This was when I first started my business back in 2018. She recently reached out to me in the month of August. I think it might have been July. She still had not gotten her books up to date, still had put them off, still had not gotten a loan. Still, what does that cost her? She could have just paid me or somebody else to get it done. And where could her business been? So 3 years went by and she's done nothing and she's stalled because she was determined to save a buck. Her plans for her business were unbelievable. And in the community that she was in, it would have been so welcome and well received. And it probably would have done very well. And I was really sad. Like she came to me and I was so sad that she hadn't done it yet. And I'd always been looking like, oh, like when's this project gonna come? I was excited for it. I was like, I live in this community. I'm gonna love this. This is gonna be fantastic. I can't wait to see it. And it never came to fruition. And all because she couldn't get that bank loan.
Yeah.
Maybe to spend a couple $1,000s and have somebody do it. And she could have had that bank loan right off the bat. And then it could have come back, whoever knows how many fold.
Right.
So that was that piece. Okay. So then number two, who to look for if you're like, okay, you know what? I don't want this to happen. Who to look for? One, look at more than one bookkeeper. Call around, do interviews. If possible, do a face-to-face. There are tons and tons of bookkeepers out there who are virtual. So there is no reason why you can't do a Zoom. And you learn a lot by seeing somebody's face, how they present themselves, how they talk to you. They're not on the phone with you, like maybe mowing down food. They're actually dedicated to hearing what you have to say. So absolutely make sure that you're calling more than one person and calling around. And even when I'm doing like sales calls with potential clients, I'm like, great, have you called anybody else yet? No. Do you plan on it? I think we'd be a great fit, but I want to make sure that they're happy too. So listen for those kind of things. the person that you're interviewing should be asking questions of you. I find this when I'm struggling with something. I'm going to go back to my social media example. I need my social media team to like pull stuff out of me because I don't know what to give them because I don't know anything about it. So when I'm talking with potential clients, I'm asking them like a lot of like questions and trying to get more information out of them. It shows that they're dedicated to really want to understand your situation and how they can help. And if they can help you in more ways than just reconciling my books and making sure that I have good books, because there's a lot more that they can offer. So just seeing what else is out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I love that you focus a lot on aspects of trust, like dimensions of trust that you're kind of highlighting. Like, are you a good fit? It's almost like dating, right? It's like all these different things that
yeah,
you're looking for in a person that you trust. And the reason why you have to find someone that you trust and not just, Joe Schmo bookkeeper, just because they have bookkeeper in their Instagram bio doesn't mean that they're the right fit for you. Or I always say, don't hire based on proximity, right? Hire based on
yeah,
priorities. And what are your priorities? What are your values? And find someone in alignment with that, because you're giving them access to a lot of things that require trust. Your bank account information and your social security number at times. So you really want to be careful. I think people are um more apt to hire just anybody to do their books, but I don't think they realize like how much access you are granting them into your life sometimes. And you definitely want to find the right fit for you. And
absolutely.
yeah, the right person
Yeah,
who will serve you.
but I always say, like, we get up in your business. Like, we are in your business 100%. And especially for those business owners, a disclaimer here, please separate your personal and business. But if you have not, we see everything that's happening in your personal life. So,
Yeah.
really, so just, think about who you're hiring. So, take that time and just don't hire like the first person you talk to. And
Right.
as silly as an old school. I mean, it's so funny because I'm always like, you should ask for references. And I do that when I hire my team and stuff. And of course, you're always going to give names of people who like your work. But, I might have, you might talk to somebody who's like, oh, yeah, here are some of my clients. And then you get the client gets on the phone and be like, actually, no, I was looking to leave them. So you don't know. So definitely just say, like, hey, like, can you give me some names of people that you're working with? So
Yeah.
I can talk to them and see, what are you delivering? Are you over promising and under delivering, or is it vice versa? So definitely just do your research, check them out. I know you had mentioned credentials. Um, there is no, there are like some certified bookkeeping courses. I have not ever had one client ask for it. I don't necessarily think it's a necessity to have, but you want somebody with experience, somebody who knows what they're doing. And if somebody has, connections, like what are their like connections? So I happen to be an enrolled agent, but if I wasn't, even though I am, I still make sure that I have a huge network of other tax preparers out there. So I can make sure I'm talking with them, I'm communicating with them, I have advice, I have a sounding board to go off of. Because if I'm questioning something, I know I have a team of people beyond me that I go to for resource. And I tell people this all the time when I'm on a call, but like, if I don't know the answer, I know that I'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
So maybe the credentialing isn't as like a necessity, because I mean, there are people who've been doing this for 10, 20 years, 30 years, and they're really good at what they do. There's definitely good bookkeepers out there, but they don't have the credential behind it, but they have the experience.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
something just to think about, like, who's in their network, who do they know, how can they help you as a
Yeah.
whole.
What value do they bring to the table? And I think that's inexperience. And even credentials, if you define credentials as like certifications, makes total sense. I also consider credentials to be like 20 years experience, or
Exactly.
helped a client surpass seven figures, helped X number of clients, grow and scale their businesses. I think all of those are authoritative credentials that give a bookkeeper authority in the space, professionalism, and chops, if you will. And I think that's so important, to find someone who has kind of helped another business owner achieve the goals that you're looking for. It's really similar, and I keep using this dang fitness analogy, but it's like finding a trainer that helped someone else meet your exact goal, right? So if you
Exactly.
if you want to run a marathon, find someone who helped someone run a marathon. you
Right.
know?
I'm not
So
going to the weightlifter to figure out how to run a marathon. Right.
exactly, exactly. You want to find someone who is experienced in that area. And I think that for those listening, you know, reframe a little bit of that on the bookkeeping front and realize that there are specialists or there are people who understand maybe your industry or maybe your type of business and your stage, your season of where you're at, and they can help you. And there's never been more of an abundance of resources than now on the internet through Instagram. Despite her resistance to social media, Katie is crushing reels right now. I've been watching them.
A lot of persuading from my social media team.
Yes. Yes. We'll have to do one together at some point. That would be fun.
We should. Oh, that would be a good time.
Yeah. We'll ask your social media people how to do that because I think we're both not savvy enough to figure out how to do
Yeah,
that.
I'll ask them.
But yeah, so I think for the listeners out there, it's not to be preachy or lectury about doing your books. I think it's really about how we can support you. We can 100% support you with that effort, with that heavy lifting that you feel like you have on your shoulders, because it's not as heavy as you think it is. It's only heavy because you've had it on your shoulders for so long. And that's where it presses down. It's actually just a small weight you've been holding for a long time, which makes it fatigued, right?
Yeah.
So we can put that weight down, and we can definitely move all of your business strategy and all that stuff forward. So Katie, for those who are just completely inspired by what we've talked about today and want to go get their books in order before tax time and just are committed to setting 2022 up on the right foot, tell us how we can follow you, get in touch with you, and what you're working on right now, what you're looking for to bring on for clients.
So you can find me on my website, which is senseandbalance.com. So sense like change. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn at Sense and Balance. Super simple to find me. And like Shannon just said, I'm kind of loving the reels. I got to sit down and do it and commit to doing it. But it's kind of one of those things, right? I block time in my calendar to, to sit down and maybe I self-make a little more presentable, kind of getting the comfortable working at home thing and getting on camera and setting it up and making sure my dogs aren't going crazy. It's just, I have to put in my calendar, else it doesn't get done. I'll always find something else to do because it's not my favorite thing. And then types of clients I'm looking for, I love working with new small business owners. I do have a DIY membership. It is not a course. I'm not going to make you watch 6 hours of videos. It is a true membership group where you can come on and ask any question that you have about your book. So if you are DIYing it and you have questions about what goes where and how do I even use this software, this is an opportunity to come on and ask and not have to watch 2 hours of a Google video, a YouTube video in order to find that like 2-second clip that you really wanted. We can quickly give you the answer, so you're not having to Google it all the time. So those clients are great. I love to help new business owners, entrepreneurs, somebody who might have turned a hobby during COVID into a business because it kind of took off, are great fits for this because maybe they are still kind of juggling that full-time job and they're not committed 100% to this yet, but know that they need to have good books in order and already have that business sense going into it, knowing it. So those are great people for me right now. I would love to meet you. And because, I was there too. I started off, this was my side hustle. This was nights and weekends. And I was able to grow it and develop it and make it my full-time income. So I want to help others out there also get to that full-time income stage.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that the focus is on new business owners too, because I think there's just such a special community of those who are just starting out and we lean on each other. We, go to each other for resources and help all the time. And I think it's great that you're helping build that network with your expertise and offering that to small business owners. So, why I love working with Katie too is she is also kind of like me with the heart of a teacher and a little real talk. So if it's not going to be accounting 101 lectures from Katie. She's going to break it down for you in ways you can understand that are actually practical, that relate to your business, and that are not scary and intimidating with any kind of crazy riddled with jargon type of thing. You're going to get the real deal when you hear Katie speak about this. So if you're interested, follow the link in the show notes. You'll see everything about Katie there, and make sure you give her a follow. Let her know you listen to the podcast and give her your biggest takeaway. Tag us on social media at Shannon K. Weinstein and at Sense and Balance if you enjoyed this episode and you had a takeaway that you want to share with Katie. It's the best way we can give back to her for her time today and sharing this knowledge with you. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining us, and can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
All right. I'll catch you guys next time.